Welcome to Eagle Eye.
What a break from Manolo!
Interviewing your favorite USA Eagles around the globe.
Tony Lamb into the 22.
Now, here's your host, Bill Baker.
Hey, welcome to the Eagle Eye Rugby Podcast. If you get a moment, please like, subscribe, follow here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast player. I really appreciate it. All right, we're going to get right into it today. This is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of interviewing before, USA Women's head coach, Rob Kane. It was a really good time for us to talk. We spoke about 2 weeks ago prior to our Twitter Spaces show, if you were live or listened to that on Thursday night, about the same kind of thing. We've talked a lot about the Premier 15s and how we have about 23 players overseas of USA Women Eagles getting quality playing time. And then we also talk about the Wales match coming up this weekend. No word right now of this, as of this recording, about how we can watch that match. I'm assuming there's going to be a streaming service available. Hopefully, it would be injustice if there is not. Anyway, good conversation again with Rob. Great guy. Enjoy.
Hey Bill, how you doing?
Hey Rob, how are you?
Hi, very well. Sorry I'm a little bit late.
Whatever, man. It's all good.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. All right, man, we're into it. So you were you're saying you're keeping busy right now, touring clubs, specifically the clubs that the USA players are on, right? Talk more about that. What's the purpose of doing those visits?
Yeah, no, definitely, Bill. Look, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. Yeah, so at the moment we've got regional rugby in the US. So we have a regional hub in San Francisco. We have a regional hub in the Northeast, where you are, where it's very chilly, and very lucky that the Free Jacks are helping us out with there and getting some indoor space. So thank you to the Free Jacks for that. And then we have a training facility in Denver, Glendale, which is great. So we've got about 27 players that are working over there, working very hard with the assistant coaches, which is fantastic. Kate Daly, Rich Ashfield and Jamie Burke. And then I'm over in the UK and I'm doing the same thing, but with the 23 players that we have in the UK. So a typical week will be video check-ins with the US players and the UK-based players. So going through their video games, through their trainings. Mm-hmm. And then I go and see their clubs. I'm going to 2 clubs a week, meet their coaches, build relationships, help strengthen them, go through development plans, get a sense of what their environment is. And then I go to their games. And then we repeat the process. And we've been doing that since the end of tour.
Now you say 23 players, which was also in the press release about the Wales match. Are they all in camp with a Premier 15s club?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So the way it's working is we're having a UK-based camp, and we have an exhibition match against Wales, which is very exciting. Massive thanks to all the stakeholders that made that happen. And then as we finish that, what will happen is we have a US-based camp. So I'll be in America. We do the same format, the same days, the same sessions, the same expectations, and then we'll be finishing a game. And then at the end of March, we will be reducing the player pool to a World Cup player performance pool, which is a great spot to be in.
Yeah, and it's probably safe to say that these players over in Europe right now have a good chance of staying long in that player pool into the summer. But generally speaking about the Premier 15s, Rob, what's the importance of this competition for the USA players at this stage?
Short term, I mean, it's massive. You have to remember that pre our autumn tour, majority of the group hadn't played any domestic rugby in 2 years. And, they've been working tirelessly in the background to learn about rugby, their rugby IQ, like all the theory. And then their first opportunity was test that against, some of the best international teams in the world. The benefit of the Premier 15s, and when the WPL starts up in April as well, is that players have a less pressured environment to be able to showcase and to go through that big learning phase of tactically adapting to win. And, it doesn't cost them a game. But regular games against, some of the best players in the world, the infrastructures are very sound, the support is very sound. And as you can see, every week all the American players are playing really well, and it's no coincidence because they've worked really hard the previous 2 and 3 years. Number one, putting up with me. Number two, like seeing rugby in a different sense and having a real good understanding about playing rugby and what that means in their positional units. And now they get the platform to be able to showcase it regularly. And it's been great to see the players perform. Every single one of them is playing well. And, 30-40% better than the autumn, which is fantastic and exciting for us.
Oh yeah, and you talk about specific players. I mean, all of them, like you said, are playing great. Kate Zachary, no surprise, she's leading Exeter left and right.
Yeah.
And then you look at one of the recent players that going on over is Lev Kelter, who has not skipped a step going from 7s back to 15s. What does the chance of Lev bring to the USA player pool, her style of play?
She's very direct. I mean, she can beat defenders. She's got great core skills. More importantly, she's a really nice person. And I think for Lev, she's always been thrown in at the deep end and not necessarily always set up for success, because going back from 7s and 15s is really challenging. When I first had the first opportunity to meet Lev, her first 15s games were played at World Cups, and to think that she performed so well, it's actually quite scary for the opposition, but also exciting in the same sense that Leva's going to have 10 domestic games, 12 domestic games, and then with our international calendar just getting confirmed, we could have the possibility of another 6 test matches, let's say. Suddenly someone like that who hasn't been experienced at 15s is now a robust, experienced centre, and that's when you're going to see the best of her wearing a 15 shirt.
And real quick about a few of the players. I know Gabby Cantorna's close to returning. Do you have any status on, say, Rachel Johnson? I think she's been nicked up. Maya Learned. Anything about those two? Are they up and playing?
Yeah, so again, like playing rugby week in, week out, you're going to pick up niggles. That's what they're doing at the moment. They're just working through that. Obviously, Gabby was a big loss for us in the autumn. She's been working really hard. I know that at times injuries are very frustrating, but they're all in really good hands with their clubs, with open dialogue with their clubs, and they're working really hard to get back on the pitch.
Now, so I'm looking at this Wales match, which I'm going to talk more specifics about that too. But I want to talk about the player pool there. You mentioned the 23 players from UK based. Is that all you're going with, UK based players, or are you going to bring some players from stateside as well?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we're actually just finalising that, and that goes back to my previous point of players having niggles. So we do have a few players on standby in case. We want to make sure that the union, myself, Dan's been integral to this. Dan Payne, the new head of high performance, integral in making this happen, and we want to make sure that we can safeguard the group and get the most out of it. So yeah, there are a few players that are on standby if and when needed.
Yeah, as a coach myself, I even my next season isn't until fall, and I'm already writing down potential lineups. So I went through all the lists and I started writing down potential lineups for you. So if you need my help,
hey, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the nice things about a lot of these players is they're multifaceted. They could play multiple positions. Christine Summer can play, lock and back row, whatever else. Katana Howard can play fly half, center, that kind of stuff. So, I saw perhaps less fullbacks for you, let's say, but it seems like even with the 23 you have over there, and I don't know if Tess Fury's in the list as well, but it seems like you probably could.
Listen, before we get into that, Bill, we got to say a huge congratulations to Tess. Like, she was just part of a title-winning team in Ireland at the Railway Union. Yeah. It's fantastic for her. She's been playing really well. So I think you're right. It's great to have players that can play multiple positions, because as we start to really try and refine a team, and we start to really refine that keyword in terms of balance, then that allows us to have more choices when we're looking at impact players or energizers coming off the bench to try and get those momentum swings. So it's something that we've been looking at for some time to really expose players in positions so we know who works, who can't work together, or more importantly, what they offer in that position.
All right, and talking about this match with Wales specifically, obviously it's a great chance for them to get ready for their Six Nations. And I think an excellent chance, obviously, for the USA players to play together for the first time in a while. What went into making this match happen? Obviously, World Rugby approval, I'm assuming. What was behind this whole deal?
Yeah, I just think getting the right people in the room, and Dan was integral to this, making this happen. The Welsh Rugby Union were very happy and accommodating. Massive thank you to them, and World Rugby as well. It was just a case of trying to make sure that we could get a meaningful contact time, but more importantly, get a meaningful game out of it, because of course the players with COVID internationally, not playing rugby internationally for 2 years as well as domestic, that's a big threat. So the more time we can get together, the more test match weeks we have in preparation, it just means that when we get to the World Cup, that no player or staff member has a first-time experience, and we're really setting people up to be successful.
And looking forward, obviously you just mentioned moving forward with these players, especially stateside with the camps. What is on the schedule already? When should we start seeing players getting together for camps as far as getting into the summer?
Yeah, really good question. So, World Rugby are just finalising a few things in regards to the second half of the season, but we've got the UK camp with Wales, which is great. We're going to have the US camp with a game to be announced shortly, so please watch this space. We do have summer test matches at the moment penciled in, but we're just waiting on a few things in regards to COVID to get confirmed. And then we're looking at a World Cup pre-season, which would be really exciting. Historically, that's been called a residency. Again, we're just waiting on a few final details on that. And then we have the World Cup itself. But after the US camp, we will be doing an Eagle Trailblazers tour where I go around the country, as I have done previously, working with the players that have been filtered down into that World Cup performance pool, and then going around the WPL and meeting the key stakeholders to thank them, to help them, and to really start discussing how we can make things better.
Just thinking, the UK camp, is this brand new? Have you had a camp over there?
No. This is another new thing that we're doing. Yeah, it's been quite exciting. I've been very fortunate. We've done lots of new things since I've had this role. But I think number one, previously, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 US players that had managed to get across to the UK. But to have this amount is wonderful for the program, but wonderful for the players, and the experience, the memories they're creating and gaining is really going to set them up for success. But yeah, this is a first.
And lastly, Rob, just speaking of professional women's rugby in general, obviously not a thing here. Premier 15 seems to be doing really well. Maybe sets the table for potential league here in the United States. Obviously, travel and all that stuff is so expensive. But you mentioned the Free Jacks earlier helping out with the Northeast camp. Is Major League Rugby the key possibly to making a professional league happen here? Or perhaps partnering with the Major League clubs,
Yeah, I definitely think they have to be one of the stakeholders. I think
right.
First and foremost, when you work through these things, you really have to work through the existing group, the WPL, and they've done a fantastic job over the years. And I think once people can decide on the direction that they would like to go in, and does that mean that they're trying to be the top league in the country? Does that mean that some people don't want to be? That then allows conversations to open up. But I think with any professionalised league, one of the huge things is infrastructure, and so facilities, staffing, and with the UK, for example, I'm not going to imagine, I do know, some of their budgets are astronomical, and they would be some of the club budgets. They would have a bigger budget than us as a national team, for example. So it's really understanding that resources do drive that momentum, and you need to get enough stakeholders around the room to be prepared to drive that.
Awesome, Rob. Hey, thank you for your time, and it's great catching up, talking about this.
Hey, no worries at all. Thank you. Have a lovely day.